for the first week in October with Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Lynn Elias, moviesharkdoublour.com. You can find me online. You can find me in print. You can find me right here. You can find us on iTunes. Look, and I'm somewhere. Greg is not with me today. He is actually off at doing interviews on the incredible film Truth, the Mary Mapes and Dan Rather story. He'll be back next week, I think, with some great interview content, I am sure, so that we can share that with you. And we'll talk more about the movie Truth, which, again, as comes as no surprise, Cate Blanchett delivers a powerhouse performance that definitely her name will be swirling with Oscar chatter as the weeks and months go by. But today, thanks to the miracles known as publicist Annie Jeeves and Melanie Marquez. Great show today. We've got Allan Luebke is back. You may recall Allan was here. He was live a few weeks ago when we had Diamond Dallas Page. And Allan was cut a little short because of DDP. Of course, he didn't mind, but because he was such a gracious gentleman about it, I invited him back at his earliest opportunity. So he'll be joining us today to talk more about his documentary, GLENA, on GLENA Avila, female MMA champ. And if you haven't seen it yet, look for it. GLENA is out there on demand on various platforms. It may be on Netflix, I'm not sure, but we will ask Allan about that. Then at 11:30, we have writer, director, producer Sheri Sussman, who delivers, it is without a doubt, the most hilarious satiric short I have seen in I don't know how long, called One Night in Hollywood. And we're going to hear all about that from Sheri, and also how this is a springboard for financing to do a feature. So definitely want to chat with her in depth about that. And of course, for all you General Hospital fans out there who are missing our beloved Duke Lavery in the show, here's your chance with One Night in Hollywood to see Ian Buchanan himself in a delicious, delicious performance. Got a lot of audio for you today from some of my exclusive interviews that I've been doing the past couple months. One of which, Luke Hemsworth, the third of the well-known Hemsworth brothers. And I have to say, Luke is an absolute delight. He is so grounded. He is a family man. And he's bounced back and forth from acting to general work to various, business ventures. But he is a joy. And I pulled his audio today from our exclusive interview that we did for Kill Me Three Times, the Kriv Stenders film that was out earlier this year along the Seven Psychopaths vein. Hilarious, very funny, very dark. But because Luke is also in the film The Anomaly, which is out on DVD tomorrow. Originally, director, producer, and actor Noel Clarke was going to be with us today from London, but due to circumstances beyond our control, he is not. But because Luke has a lot of interesting things to say about acting, and he does everything that he says and does, besides that incredible Aussie accent that we all fall in love with, he has a really great, practical, upbeat attitude about everything, as if acting ended tomorrow, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But, so, I had to ask him, because of his background, and because of the many ventures that he's done out of the acting sector, what is the appeal of acting? What draws him to it? And here's what he had to say.
I mean, I actually probably been doing it the longest. I loved theatre in school. I did in high school. I did all the stupid drama productions, and it was a strange balance because we were all heavily involved with sport and drama as well. And they do complement each other in a lot of ways in terms of you suffer a lot of defeat in sport and also in acting, in the acting world, and you learn to deal with both of them very quickly to a certain degree. And it just came from a sense of of play. We all we love to play, and we don't take it too seriously or each other too seriously. And we like to have fun. I just never saw myself sitting in a 9-to-5 job. I don't know. I think I'd go crazy. That's the challenge. Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I did it. I tried various things as you grow up, but I was always a worker as well. I love doing things with my hand. My grandfather was a carpenter, and I think that's where that came from. I spent so much time building things with him in his garage, and I went to university. I studied acting. I did TV shows in Australia, and then I just I don't know. It never reached a right level for me. So I went and did other things, and I actually started a timber flooring business, which we ran pretty successfully for a few years. And then something happened, and the love came back, and the bug came back, and I started to get things rolling again, and started to do some good stuff, and here we are.
And here we are indeed. It seems that the good Luke Hemsworth is popping up everywhere this year, in The Anomaly, in Kill Me 3 Times. He has a couple other projects, and upcoming is Westworld, the adaptation, the TV series that HBO is doing, and Luke has a prominent presence in there. But with his background in jostling TV, film, theater, have to ask him, do you have a preference at this point in time? Have you developed a preference for TV, film, stage, or is it all just kind of in there?
Look, it's all in there. I don't think there's not a real big difference between, especially film and television anymore. I mean, television's so good nowadays that you're basically making a little film, every couple of days, and the theatre I always loved, and it's a kind of entirely different beast altogether. But again, it comes down to the work. I don't think any actor worth their salt sort of differentiates anymore. It's about making sure that you're doing something that you love because of the story or the character. And if the material's right, then it's always a good way to go. I think that's it. Rather than saying, I'm not sure if it happens anymore that actors say, I don't want to do that. I'm sure there's some, yeah. But I want to do it all. I'm about to start some TV, so it's great.
And his reference to TV is, of course, as I mentioned, the Westworld, HBO Westworld project, which, stay tuned, it will be coming out, my guess is probably after the first of the year or somewhere thereabouts. But in the meantime, tomorrow you can catch Luke in The Anomaly, the Noel Clarke directed sci-fi feature. There's a little bit of 12 Monkeys in there, Source Code, some of the Jason Bourne stuff. All these really cool elements come together in a dystopian future that very smartly writer Simon Lewis and Noel Clarke have not set too far in the future, so that the technology that we see being utilized is well within the realm of possibility today, let alone, and probably very real in the next 5 to 10 years. So it gives you some pause for thought. Clarke is also in the film as an ex-soldier who is being held captive by a group called The Anomaly. And it deals with mind control and jumping back and forth through time. And every time a jump is made, there's 9 minutes and 47 seconds before you go back. So it's a cat and mouse thriller amongst yourself, actually. Hopefully we'll have Noel Clarke here in the future to talk about it. But in the meantime, it's on DVD, Blu-ray, on demand tomorrow. And check out Luke Hemsworth, who plays Agent Elkin in that film. And right now, Allan Luebke is here. Hello, Allan.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going. I'm so glad to have you back. Thank you for coming back after DDP so
Yeah, me too. It was
unceremonious.
fun last time.
He cut into your time. How rude.
Yeah, well, I think winning a couple WWE championships allows him to do that, so I'm okay.
So, how have you been since we last talked?
I've been really good. We're getting this encore performance of summer in Portland right now, so it's still sunny and 80 degrees right now.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's
Very nice.
beautiful.
So, what's happening with GLENA? What is happening with this wonderful documentary and this great study of a woman, and a female MMA champ? And I know she did her last bout, I think, was in June or something that she won.
Yeah, everyone always wants to know, what GLENA is still doing. And, she's still fighting. She turned 40 in April, and she just had her 8th pro fight, and she's doing really well. I mean, she's really, I saw her last fight. She's really never been better than she is right now. And, she's really still, trying to get into the UFC because they have a 115-pound women's division now that's getting really popular. And I watched that division, and GLENA's better than a lot of the fighters in it. And for some reason, they just haven't signed her. And GLENA could walk through that division and probably get to a title shot in not too long. But for some reason, they're just not picking her up.
But, and that's something that your documentary, you really captured on camera. This isn't just somebody going from fight to fight to fight or training. This is about a woman who is juggling life. And when you see in the doc, when you see everything that GLENA goes through in terms of, a breakup, she's got her kids, she's dealing with the bankers and foreclosures and moving and making the jump. There's no doubt in my mind that she is fully capable of entering this next level.
GLENA, unlike anyone that I've ever met, is pretty much capable of doing anything. She really does take the concept of, you can accomplish anything if you put your mind to it, and she really lives that on a daily basis. When she was a kid, I mean, she grew up in the backwoods of Wisconsin. Her parents were practically non-existent. She and her brother sort of raised themselves. She was, as a teenager, she was homeless for a while. She had her first child when she was a teenager, had nowhere to live, got taken in by her dance teacher. I mean, GLENA has always found a way to conquer fairly impossible situations, and trying to get into the UFC as a 40-year-old woman seems practically impossible, but if anyone can do it, it's GLENA, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her in the UFC in the next year and doing really well, and people saying, hey, where'd this lady come from? She must have just started fighting. And we're like, no, she's actually been kind of doing this her whole life, where she takes on really, really crazy challenges and finds a way.
Now, if she is to make this jump, would you do a follow-up documentary?
I've toyed around with that idea so many times because, GLENA is so much like Rocky, and, there's I think 6 or 7 Rockies, and then they're now even doing Apollo Creed's kid.
Yes, there's 5. Yes, we have 5 Rockies plus Rocky Balboa, and now we have Creed. So,
yeah, so there's been a lot of things that have happened in her life that would be really great for telling a story. But we're actually right now working on adapting the documentary into a fictionalized version for Hollywood and for the big screen.
Okay, talk to me about this, because sometimes things like that work, sometimes they don't. Are you doing the script for this, or are you bringing somebody else in?
We're bringing in another screenwriter, and we're bringing in we're looking at female directors right now. Initially, we had sort of discussed maybe if I would be interested in doing it, but after 4 years on the movie, I just felt like it needed it needed some new ideas, someone that could look at it from the outside and see some new angles, because the adaptation it doesn't need to be a copy of the documentary. It needs to be something that it feels like it's its own story. And I didn't feel like I could really bring that, but I'm helping produce it, and we have a really amazing actress that's set to play GLENA, which I can't say who it is yet, but she's a big name, and
Well,
it's really exciting.
I'm sure you probably know who I would suggest for this.
Who would you want for it?
Ronda Rousey.
Well, Ronda is already playing herself in her own movie.
I know.
Coming up.
I know.
So
and maybe we'll get her as the first female Captain America too.
Yeah, Ronda's doing a lot of stuff. She's really kind of like a superhero of the entertainment industry right now. She does a lot of stuff. People always ask Glenna, "Do you want to fight Ronda Rousey?" And she's like, "Ronda would kill me. Ronda weighs like 40 pounds more than I do." They would never fight. Ronda fights at 135 pounds. Glenna fights at 115.
And Ronda,
so they would never ever face off.
And one look at Ronda, and that woman is muscle. That 30-some
She's
pound.
big. She's big for 135. I mean, she's just really, really strong. And she fights different than really any other women or even men fight. She comes right at you, and she looks to make the night as short as possible, whereas most people kind of take their time, try to score some points, let it go to the judges. She's trying to get done with work as quickly as she can.
I know. It's like 28 seconds, 29 seconds, and you're done. Bye.
Yeah, it's amazing what she's doing. The difference between Ronda and the competition right now is so vast that I don't know if it's partially because Ronda is just so good, but it's also that the women's division, it's still developing. A lot of the women who are fighting professionally haven't been doing it that long, and so they're really still developing the skills to where they can face off competitively against Ronda.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I think, women's MMA might get even more popular, where instead of just one star, there's about 5 stars who could all legitimately beat each other, and everyone is always kind of jockeying for a position. Right now, there is no chance Ronda's going to lose. No one is going to beat her. I mean, it's almost an impossibility that someone can beat her right now. It's really just a matter of seeing how fast she can beat the other opponent. That's what Ronda's matches have turned into.
I mean, I'm surprised anybody wants to get into the cage with her.
Well, you do when you find out you're going to main event a pay-per-view and you're going to get a pay-per-view check. I mean, Ronda sells so many pay-per-views. Her opponent gets a cut of those pay-per-views. And so, the fans might not know who you are, but they know who Ronda is. So she's actually kind of making you rich and making you famous just by piggybacking off of being her opponent.
So now, with will Glenna be involved in the narrative adaptation of the documentary?
We would love for Glenna to be involved in it. One way that I'm really excited about possibly having her involved is that, the actress is going to get into amazing shape, just completely transform her body for the movie. And instead of her hiring a trainer to the stars, I would really like Glenna and her coach Ron to go down to LA and work with this actress for 6 months and train her the way Glenna trained, and learn to fight the way Glenna learned to fight, so that in the movie she looks like Glenna, she fights like Glenna. She didn't get trained by some so-called expert boxing coach or something, but she gets to work with Glenna all the time and learn her personality and see who this woman really is. I think that would be super cool, and Glenna's really excited about that idea too.
And I think, something like that you could turn into a really interesting training montage within the film itself.
Of what?
You could turn that into if you were filming it while the actress is going through 6 months of training, you could actually film that and turn it into a nice montage piece within the narrative feature.
Yeah, we thought about that thing too, and without a doubt, the movie has to have a training montage. Got to have at least one. And so, the documentary even has a training montage, which I did not realize when I made that all fighting movies have a training montage.
Well, you kind of...
South Park even did a skit about it. They made a whole montages. And for me, it was just, there was a piece of the story missing. We needed to push the story forward a little bit, and it seemed like this montage was the way to do it. And then much later, people were like, "Oh, you did a training montage," but I had no idea it's sort of a standard scene in boxing and fighting movies.
But it's very interesting because it brings the audience up to speed. So that
it does. The montage in the movie pushes a story forward about 6 weeks in about 90 seconds. And you go, "Oh, Glenna's training really hard for this title fight. Her son is training really hard for his dance competition." they're both working hard and they're both helping each other and they're getting closer while doing it. That's essentially what the montage is communicating with really exciting music and kind of these action shots.
Mm-hmm. And then in a narrative feature, you can really expound on that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're really excited about ever since I started the documentary, it always seemed like it had the potential to be adapted.
Mm-hmm.
And then pretty much right when the movie got out into the world after Slamdance, the discussion was pretty much going right away. We had actually an Oscar-winning actress consider the role initially, and she was really interested. And there's always been a lot of interest for an adaptation, because this type of movie has never really been done. There's only $1 Million Baby.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, the women just get left behind.
Yeah, they do, which really sucks because I like watching stories about women. Like, I find them more interesting than men.
Well, something that I found really interesting with the documentary was that in many respects, you were taking a risk in filmmaking the same way GLENA was taking a risk in MMA.
Yeah, when I started the movie, I was not a filmmaker. I had been making videos for several years and doing it professionally, but very small time. And the plan was never to make a movie. There was never a discussion, I'm gonna make a feature film. It was never even a discussion, I want to be a filmmaker. I'd never thought about it before. And as I kept shooting, it just sort of seemed like the story needed to be longer.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of ended up being 84 minutes. It wasn't a goal of mine to make a movie that was that long. It just ended up being that's how long it needed to be. And when it came out, I was convinced no one was ever going to watch the movie. I didn't think it had turned out that good. And just because, when you make something, you just don't think that it's very good. And then right when it came out, it started doing so well. It got really positive reviews. Showtime was interested in it right away. We had another cable channel that wanted it. We had, this Oscar-winning actress who wanted to star in an adaptation of it. And suddenly I went from not really thinking anything of this movie to just maybe 6 weeks later being in LA and being in meetings at like CAA and WME with these agents who were like, we love your movie. What do you want to do for your career? And I was like, I'm really just here because you guys are serving free coffee. I'm just like this broke filmmaker from Portland. I'd never thought about it before, what I wanted to do in the entertainment industry. And so it just happened. And then all of a sudden I found myself being like, well, I guess I'm a filmmaker.
Now, do you want to be a filmmaker?
I want to tell stories, and I think stories come in all sorts of different vehicles. Really, my goal with filmmaking, I love filmmaking, but I don't make films because I love filmmaking. I make films because I love communicating with people, and I like to tell stories that are dramatic and have a lot of conflict, but ultimately give people a sense of optimism and make them look at their own life with a renewed sense of what they can do. And film is a great way to do that. But if I found another vehicle to do that, I would do that as well. Mm-hmm. It's never been about filmmaking. It's just been about helping people find a way to be happy.
Do you consider yourself to be more of a storyteller?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I am one of these people who am constantly meeting interesting people because they're just, I don't know, I just tend to rope them into these conversations, and I start telling a story and they start telling a story, and suddenly we're off on this journey of something that we did not even anticipate 10 minutes ago. And my friends are always saying, your life is like this little movie. You meet all these weird people and have these strange interactions. And I think I've probably set myself up for those because I like having a story to tell. I like looking at my own life and seeing stories. I like looking at the people in my life and seeing interesting stories. So I really like being surrounded by stories all the time. And I don't really even watch movies very much. I more so look for stories in real life.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where the best stories come out of the truth that we find around us.
Yeah, real life can be, stranger than fiction a lot of times. And I love when that happens. I love when I find myself in a situation or talking with someone, and I can't believe what I'm hearing. I live for those moments.
Are there any stories in particular that you want to tell, that you've come across, that you really want to cultivate? And
Really, the story that I want to tell right now is really kind of like my own story. I've been writing a very autobiographical series for the last couple years, and it's very much about the last 2 years of my life. I had been married for 4 years, and that ended very suddenly. And my life went the complete opposite direction after that I thought it was going to go in. And I found myself living this life that I did not recognize, that I had never thought I would be living. And I was so surprised how well it fit me. And I just sort of embraced it and just kind of kept going. I said, I'm just going to keep doing this so long as it feels right. And I started writing about it and all these amazing interactions I had with people, and it started to reveal itself as like my own story. And so I'm kind of planning on turning that into, not a film, but like a series. It's very autobiographical. It's very much about love and about modern relationships and about kind of the endless mystery of romantic connection and this concept of that you just never really know who it is that you're in a relationship with. You can never know someone completely. You never even know yourself completely. And so, love is just a constant exploration and learning about yourself and about other people. And I love that concept. I think about love and relationships all the time. And I've always wanted to make a project that was about modern love in a way that no one else is talking about it. And I think I finally found that.
And would you want to direct that yourself?
Yeah, I would have to direct it myself. The way it's written, no one else could even understand it but me. I'm not a traditional writer or filmmaker. I didn't learn how to I didn't go to film school. No one taught me how to do this. I just do it in a way that makes sense to me. So the stories are all from my life, and they're really interesting stories. I'm kind of amazed that I was even involved in some of these because I grew up as such kind of like a plain youth, very just sort of mundane, suburban life. And so now in my early 30s, to find myself in some of my own amazing adventures has been sort of shocking to me that, like, oh, wow, I never thought my life would look like this, but I'm so glad that it does. Yeah, I write it and I would direct it. Absolutely. It's not for anyone else.
Now, as you're putting this dream project together, and when you write, and I don't know if you did this when you were formulating and putting the GLENA's documentary together, but do you storyboard out? Do you have visual ideas of how you want that thought, that scene, that progression to play out?
Generally, no. I think a lot about the themes and the emotions that I want to communicate, and then I try to keep everything else very open-ended because I like being surprised. Like when I'm behind a camera or I'm on a documentary, I like to know why I'm there and what I'm trying to capture, but I love being surprised and just letting the story evolve once it's out of my hands. So I'm not one of these filmmakers that knows exactly what I want it to look and sound like, and I'm always, telling people, change this, change this. I love not knowing exactly what it's going to look like by the time that it's done, because it's like being on your own little journey. If you know the destination, and it's like it's not as fun. I want to be surprised when I get there. It's just a more fun way to work for me. I don't like doing rehearsals. I just talk with actors, and we come to an understanding about the characters in the scene. Then we say, all right, let's just do it now, and we'll just see what happens, and we'll just keep riffing on it until it feels right.
Mm-hmm. What is, since you are progressing and moving through the industry and staying in it, what is the greatest gift that gives to you on a personal level?
That's an interesting question because, like I said, I've only really been in the industry for like the last year and a half, and I didn't even realize that I was getting into it when I did. It just kind of hit me one day. Oh, I guess I'm in the entertainment industry, and I'm a professional filmmaker with this, film under my belt that people really like. One thing that's been really good for kind of getting into the industry is that I work with a really small team of people in Portland, and that's intentional because I trust them and we know each other and we do good work together. It's basically the crew that worked on GLENA. Mm-hmm. And GLENA doing as well as it has pushed all of our careers up to where people will actually listen to us now. Because we always felt like we had good ideas, but no one would listen because we had no, big accolade behind us. Mm-hmm. And now they're like, oh, you guys are the team behind GLENA. And, people just seem to really care about that, and it allows us to get into a room and people will take us seriously because we have all these stories that we really want to share with people. We just have to get some other people on board and to believe in us. And it's made it so much easier for people to say, oh, your idea is a little crazy, but you did GLENA, so I guess you know what you're doing.
Well, Allan, I think you know what you're doing. And I'm so glad I'm so glad that you came back and joined me again today.
Yeah, me too.
And I hope you will stay in touch and keep me advised and apprised of both projects you have going. And you're welcome.
Sounds like a deal.
And definitely, as you get further along in the process with them, please come back again.
Great. Yeah, well, I am off to the river for the rest of the day.
Well, you go have a lovely time and enjoy that sunshine.
That's the plan.
Thanks so much, Allan.
All right.
Bye-bye. And that was Allan Luebke, the director of documentary GLENA on GLENA Avila. We're going to take a short break, and as soon as we come back, we're going to have Sheri Sussman, which something tells me it's going to be a lot of laughs.
Time to tune in and log on with Behind the Lens. Join noted film critic Lynn Elias and a lineup of talented co-hosts and informed guests each week as she goes behind the lens and below the line. We'll take in-depth looks at films and filmmaking with the movers and shakers and up-and-comers of the industry, along with movie reviews, interviews, awards, festival coverage, specialty segments like Tech Talk and Classic Corner. Tune in to Behind the Lens every Monday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, only on Adrenaline Radio.
Behind the Lens is sponsored in part by the Culver City Observer. Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com. And welcome back to the second half of Behind the Lens on this first Monday in October. I'm Lynn Elias, moviesharkdoublour.com. And by the way, anybody that listened to the commercials, the last one for super organizer James Lott, great guy, great show. I strongly recommend that you tune in on Fridays at 10 o'clock or catch him on the flip side on some of the replays throughout the week. And speaking of replays, you can also catch Behind the Lens on adrenalineradio.com during the week. We play repeatedly at least 2-3 times every single day. Plus, all of my shows are on iTunes. You can go there, hear all of them. You can go to my website, moviesharkdoublour.com, and watch the very lovely videos that Jordan shoots, who is missing somewhere. I don't know where he went. But right now, we have the fabulous, multi-hyphenate, talented Sheri Sussman, writer, director, producer, who had put me in absolute hysterics about an hour ago.
Hello.
Hi, Sheri.
Hi, Debbie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my God, Sheri, I am so thrilled. Thank you so much for pinch hitting here today. I had a chance, after I got to the studio, to see your short, One Night in Hollywood. I laughed myself silly. It is satire, sarcasm, beautifully done at its finest, and we get to look at Ian Buchanan to top it off.
I'm so sorry I can't hear you.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, Debbie, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
There you go.
Now you can hear it? Okay.
I can. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's
live, right?
We're live. That,
I know.
Live is live. What can I say? Things happen. But no, this is just, I watched the short this morning. It is One Night in Hollywood. It is satiric beauty. It is so funny. It is delicious. And we get to see Ian Buchanan.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, Ian is wonderful. We were really lucky and fortunate to have him. He was actually friends with our executive producer, Francesca von Habsburg, and she just graciously called in a favor with Ian, and he actually is attached to our feature, which we're using the short, to use as a teaser for a feature film, a satire about Hollywood, just a fun kind of a French side of the player. So yeah, Ian was fantastic. He was wonderful to work with.
And
really
Ian,
lucky.
and you have him playing a character that all of his General Hospital fans are not used to seeing. Everybody's used to seeing him as the nice love of Anna Devane's life, the wonderful Duke Lavery, former mobster but always a gentleman. And now we get to see this devilish darkness that you bring out. And you have that amongst all of your characters, but he really he bites into that and doesn't let go.
No, he was fantastic, and I think he had fun with that. We tried to create a bit of like dare I name names, a combination of Norman Desmond, Robert Evans, and a little bit of Christopher Walken for him, and he just took off and was so much fun with it.
Well, where did the whole idea for this come from? I mean, because
basically I was working with an actor, Marcus Rahmin, who's my producing partner on this and the lead actor, and he was transitioning into American films as a German theater actor, and he wanted to collaborate on a piece that I would write for him, and I just really thought it was kind of fun to sort of poke fun of ourselves here in Hollywood, because he had come in fresh, and I've been in town for a while, and I saw his perspective on sort of how Hollywood works within a year of hanging around with him, and I thought, just why not write a bit of a satire of his point of view of how everything is, and a little bit of how we all see Hollywood when we first come out. I was a kid from Ohio, and then sort of 20 years later, how you can get caught up in it, and in a fun way, though, because we all love Hollywood.
And that's just it. It's very fun. The satire is biting, but it's also very fun. I mean, I was sitting here with my sound engineer, and we watched it here in the studio together, and we were both just laughing hysterically because it is so spot on and so deliciously done.
Oh, thank you so much. And because it's a satire and it's poking fun of ourselves, but we all love making movies. It's just, I think it's the idea of like how far you will go to get a film made. And, in the short, they basically go as far as you can go, having to kill somebody to get the money for your movie. But it just is meant to be fun because we are really cynical here. It's kind of just a fun idea of ourselves.
It's very loving. It is,
and the feature along with the short it's a bit of a love letter to Hollywood. Definitely a old movie buff and a cinephile, and I think it was just trying to get us back to the idea of like we're all kind of out here because we love just making movies, but then you get caught up with everything else in the business, and I guess like in any business, you get caught up with the business and sort of forget why you were doing it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Well, something that really adds to, in addition to your great writing and the performances, your visual tone in this short is stunning. It's spot on, but then your cinematography, beautiful, beautiful night shots, great, lens flares with the use of color and blurring the neon lights on the horizon, but also you even throw in some dutching of the camera to give us a different little POV when you're in the house at the end with the contract negotiations. How did you go about designing your visuals for the short, and will that carry through into the feature?
Yes, well, thank you first off for the great compliments. And my DP, Jeffrey Norvett, was a native camera operator for years, did phone booths and Punch Drunk Love. I've worked with him for a long time, and one of my mentors, Earl Letts, who executive produced this, was former studio president at Paramount. So I'm really fortunate to get access to high production value. Technicolor did our color correction. And I just want to say, like, for an indie film, there's so many great people in Hollywood that'll come in and do favors because they still love to work on a piece they love. And Jeff and I just designed a sort of cinema verite look, as if hopefully you get the feeling you're right there with them, and just to make it a little over the top. And then Chris Wagley at Technicolor did my color correction, and we just opted for those really, bright colors. To make it a little bit over the top and the handheld, just to give it a feel of of that being right there with these guys this one particular night.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, with your color saturation and the eye-popping color, it adds that little bit of heightened sense, that surrealism to it. So it takes it out of being the mundane and lets it follows through on that satiric tone that your dialogue has.
Oh, thank you very much. That was the intent, is just to bring it a little bit over the top of reality, which is, you know, to me, great satire. It's just real enough, but just skewed to the left a tiny bit to where it's not as far as caricatures of ourselves or broad comedy. So it definitely is a hard tone, and it's nothing I've ever done before. So I was a little worried. So the actors really nailed it. Rick Peters, Kyle Kaminsky, and Marcus Raymond, and of course Ian, and they really made it exactly what it was, you know, nailing the tone of the performances, I think.
Well, and considering you haven't done this, for those that don't know, I mean, your prior works, you know, you did Second Opinion, a documentary on prostate cancer. You produced the documentary Life in a Basket on homeless people and what they have in those shopping carts we see them pushing all over town with. What led you, what is it that spurred you to go out of this documentary theme and into this type of genre? Or this type of differential?
Actually, I've done a film, MacArthur Park, a good friend Billy Worth directed that Sundance bought about.
Yeah, you co-wrote that one,
yeah. Feature, fictionally, and I really don't do documentaries. I was asked to do those other two, and I really did this because I have done such serious, heavy kind of message films, and I thought it would be just something fun. It's just really a genre that I love. And I always had wanted to try it. You know, I loved the State in Maine and, of course, you know, Altman the Player and films like that. So I just wanted to kind of give it a shot. And so the feature actually is a bit of like more of like a risky business than The Player, that kind of tone.
So now, are you working on the script for the feature? Is the script done? And are you doing any kind of funding campaigns to get the money, short of killing people, to, you know, get the money to do the feature?
Yes. Actually, we worked backwards. The feature was finished, and like I said, the feature actually is a different plot than the short, but I wanted to do the tone, the characters, and the actors attached as a piece to try to raise money for the feature, which we're trying to do now. And we have some great actors, old Hollywood, so it's just a great, you know, ode to Hollywood. We have Olivia Hussey is interested in the film, and her daughter, India Isley. Olivia obviously was Juliet from Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet. Her daughter, India Isley, Ian Buchanan. We have Mariette Hartley, Billy Worth. A lot of actors that are just fantastic that you go, oh, I know that person. And so that's where we're at now. The feature was actually done first, and then kind of a film within a film within a film. We were running around trying to raise money for the feature when it got to be like, let's just shoot a short, because you want to just keep working. And the short was done to serve as a teaser for the feature to raise money, but yet stands alone as a short on its own. And that's why we decided to go all out, to where, as if these guys in the feature 2 years later got so sick of trying to raise the money, they're like, you know, even if we have to kill somebody, it's not a big deal at this point.
So now, is the feature funded yet?
No, it isn't. And we have the budget. We're doing it because we are lucky. We've got, like I said, Earl Letts is the executive producer, so we have tons of favors and goodwill in this film. So we're really just doing it for a low budget, $500,000, and being that it is about Hollywood, the joke about Hollywood films is you can't make films about Hollywood in Hollywood. So we're well aware, and we try to make it. The feature is actually, like I said, it's more of a risky business. They decide to take over a house and pretend that they own it to raise money to impress investors, which we never understood why you have to pretend to have money to get money, but it seems to work.
So what lengths did you go to pretend you had money to get money? Dare I ask?
I haven't yet. That's why I don't have money for the feature. I actually, the funny story is I've sort of had, I've raised money for other people's films. In fact, MacArthur Park was simply a great package. We had Cinda Williams and Balthazar Getty, and Billy Worth just poured his heart into that film. It was a true story of a guy who had lived in the park, a beautiful film. But I actually got the money just by telling a friend who told a friend, and they wrote a check 2 weeks later. So I have no idea how people get money for movies in Hollywood. I think that's the point of all this.
Will you be doing any kind of Indiegogo or Kickstarter to get more funding for the feature?
You know what? We've been back and forth on that. We're hoping that we have a really great package. We have great people involved, and we're hoping that the short kind of spurs some interest of somebody who just wants to write a check. Mm-hmm. And if not, we do always consider Indiegogo and Kickstarter, of course. They're great avenues to raise money.
Do you have a preference? I always like to ask this of directors and filmmakers when they're contemplating or in the midst of. Do you have a preference between Indiegogo or Kickstarter? Because I know Indiegogo, if you don't meet your goal, you still get to keep your money.
Well, that would be my preference, because I haven't ever done either one of those, but friends have, and I got to tell you, that would be my only decision to go to with Indiegogo, because whatever money you get, you can still use. Mm-hmm. So.
Because Kickstarter, that always disturbs me, that if you don't meet your goal for whatever reason, you don't get any money.
That disturbs me, too, because I went through that and begged and borrowed and stole from everybody I know, and then you have to tell them never mind. So, yeah, that's always been one of the reasons I've never done it, it seems. But it definitely is a great place, because a lot of people have raised money for some great films and projects that they otherwise would never have gotten the money for. So I think it's really great. What
I find interesting, though, is a lot of female filmmakers I know, Jane Clark being one who's working on her sequel to Crazier Bitches, is once again going with Indiegogo. She had great success before. She's going that route again. Other female filmmakers, it seems to be the guys are really hell-bent on Kickstarter. But a lot of the women are looking at it more pragmatically of, hey, let's take what we can get and at least get moving.
Well, that makes sense. I think women are a little more pragmatic, but I think it just makes sense to me. But I think I think when you do one of those, you just assume you're going to get the money that you ask for. So, but I think it is a bit of a risk if you don't get the money.
Mm-hmm. So, how can people see One Night in Hollywood?
Well, we'll be at the Hollywood Shorts Film Festival October 18th. It's at the Attic on Hollywood and Ivar, and that's you can go to hollywoodshorts.com. It's at 6 p.m. October 18th. And then if you happen to be in India, we're going to be at the Dharamsala Indian Film Festival November 5th through 8th. And then we actually just got a deal with Shorts HD. We're going to air in May, and that'll be on the Shorts HD channel, which is DirecTV, Amazon Prime. They have a number of stations. Mm-hmm. So that's where we are so far.
I'm sorry. People should not have to go to India or wait until May to see this short, because it's that funny. It's that good.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
You should do like a pay-per-view for shorts.
Well, in May, hopefully. I mean, that's what it will be throughout. All the DirecTVs, but we hope to get into more festivals. We've entered, and we're just waiting to hear back. So hopefully, we'll be in a lot more in LA, and we can definitely buzz that up with you and let you know.
Oh, absolutely, because I definitely want to stay in the loop on this one, because I am in love with this teaser already.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
What is it? Because you've been at the rodeo for a while. You have done a variety of different things in the business. What is it that drives you? What keeps you going? What is the gift that it gives to you?
You know what? It's really simple at this point. Is I still like doing it. I mean, I love writing and I love making films, and it's kind of right now that's about the only thing that keeps me going. It's like when you've been doing it for so long, if you don't have like that huge success. I'm not the kind of person that, I can name a film like, I wrote Cry Freedom or, Gandhi, but if you keep working and you keep liking the work that you're doing, I mean, at the end of the day, that you've got to just make a living and get by if you can. And if you hit a really big film, that's great. But in the meantime, I think, and that's kind of what our feature is about, is 80% of Hollywood are people that are just grinding every day, making films, writing scripts, and I really, it's so corny, but if you don't really like doing the work, I don't see any reason to do it,
Mm-hmm. Do you have a dream project yet that you hope to one day do?
Well, yeah, I have a film that's actually about a Holocaust survivor called Hiding in Plain Sight, and it's she survived the war as a teenager because she was Jewish in Poland, but mostly because she had blonde hair and blue eyes, which saved her life many times with the Nazis. So it's a true story, and it's one that I'm very, very passionate about.
Wow. Sheri, I can't thank you enough for joining me today on Behind the Lens. This has been an absolute treat. And trust me, after this morning, watching One Night in Hollywood just cheered me up immensely and put a smile on my face.
Thank you so much, and we really appreciate it. And thanks to Melanie Marquez and Gotham Chandler, who definitely helped set this up.
Oh,
and we really appreciate your support, Debbie. That's really nice to hear.
And Melanie's a rock star. She knows that. She is
huge rock star.
But so everybody in LA, October 18th, 6 p.m., Hollywood Shorts at the Attic. They can see One Night in Hollywood.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheri. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
And that was writer, director, producer Sheri Sussman talking about One Night in Hollywood. We're going to take another short break, and we'll be back and hear from Rahmin Bahrani on 99 Homes. Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is the #1 newspaper in Culver City, covering local news, politics, and community events, with sports by Mitch Chortkoff and movie reviews by Debbie Lynn Elias. Culver City Observer is the place to go to be in the know. When you think Culver City and the heart of Screenland, think Culver City Observer. When you think movies and movie reviews, think Culver City Observer. Culver City Observer, a division of Arizona Newspaper Group, is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com. And welcome back to Behind the Lens. We've got a few minutes left. 99 Homes is now out nationally, and I'm on VOD also. Written and directed by Rahmin Bahrani, stars Andrew Garfield and Michael Shannon. We're going to have one clip from Rahmin in a minute, but first, I want to share with you, I just now got the confirmation. Next Monday, on Behind the Lens, 11:30, Jake the Snake Roberts. And I see Brian's face is just lighting up with extreme joy in the sound booth. So everybody tune in next Monday because we got Jake the Snake himself. But now let's talk about 99 Homes. We mentioned it in the past. It's now out. Rahmin Bahrani is known for tackling some great social issues. He did it with At Any Price. Film starred Zac Efron, Dennis Quaid. 99 Homes deals with the foreclosure crisis in the United States following the 2008 stock market and financial debacle. I say depression. The economists want to say recession. But the film focuses on southern Florida, on the Orlando area, and people and the scamming and the two-fisted double dealing that was going on within the banking industry that was kicking people out of their homes, foreclosing on them. The visuals are extremely powerful, and we've heard from Orrin Moverman the past few weeks talk about Bobby Bukowski as a cinematographer and the specialty work that he did to develop a very defining look for Time Out of Mind. A completely different look is what Bobby Bukowski and Rahmin work out for 99 Homes. So I want you to hear a little bit about how Rahmin and Bobby came up with the design and the visual look. What you guys did, and what I found really interesting, and I brought it up to Bobby, is the visuals here, your visual tonal bandwidth. You keep it light. Everything, there are windows,
Yes.
Everything is bright
Yes.
and white,
Yes.
And it has almost a double entendre metaphoric meaning with everything is so blinding white around Rick that you're blinded to the shystery shenanigans.
Yes.
But then you have this slight warmth, but again with the open windows and the sunlit and the natural lighting, with the Nashes, be it in a motel room or in their home. And it's just so striking to the darker thematic elements that underlie.
We knew that it would have those kind of the darker themes, but I wanted the film, and Bobby was instrumental in that also, of just the film should be bright and beautiful looking, which kind of Florida has that look. And Bobby and I talked about how can the scenes in the Nash home be warm and feel intimate, more handheld, more comfortable, more familial. And how can it be when he goes to the Carver properties, we would get away from handheld, go to a steady cam, and be a little bit more slick, very wide. The actors are, kind of farther away in a huge, giant mansion. It's kind of not, has no soul in a way.
Very impersonal.
Yeah. As Michael says, I got this home, I'm going to flip it next year, And so I remember we sat down and just went through all the scenes, and we were like, what's our intuition say here? Handheld, Steadicam or studio mode for shooting, and we made our list, and I think about 80-90% it pretty much was how we ended up shooting it. There were a couple of times where we thought we were going to shoot Steadicam, we switched to handheld, or we thought we would do handheld and we switched to Steadicam, but so kind of those choices were based on what the scenes were about.
And we'll hear more from Rahmin next week on Behind the Lens. And when you look at our video later this week, you'll notice all sorts of new Pixar merchandise out here for a little film called The Good Dinosaur that's coming out on November 25th, and we will start talking about that. I was up at Pixar for a few days. A lot of exclusive interviews, a lot of great information and content that I'll be bringing to you between now and November 25th. But for now, Behind the Lens, next week, Jake the Snake Roberts.